Thank you, as always, for joining us on At Issue. I'm H. Wayne Wilson. Everybody knows that the cost of higher education rises every year. The state of Illinois commits less and less to public institutions, and we're going to discuss what the alternatives are. What might we do to make sure that higher education is obtainable by most citizens? And to have that conversation, Troy Johnson is here. Troy is the ISU Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management. So Illinois State University is represented. Also represented is Eureka College, much smaller than Illinois State. And Daniel Blankenship is here. He is the college provost and dean. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And then Dave Pardick is with Bradley University. He's the Director of Financial Assistance. Dave and I have been around since the mid-'70s. I'd like to say welcome to Central Illinois to Troy, and welcome to Central Illinois to Daniel, because they're both here for a very short period of time. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
The question that we want to talk about is enrollment. It's about financial assistance. But before we go there, President Obama just recently threw a little bit of a curveball into the scenario, and that is, and we don't know the details, but free education for students pursuing a degree, an associate's degree at a community college. I don't care who starts this discussion, because, and I know that you don't know a lot, but how might this affect your ability to recruit students?
I'll be glad to lead off with that one.
Sure, David.
We're excited about the conversation, and as you suggested, it's preliminary. It's a little bit sketchy, but from our perspective, the opportunity to broaden the pool of community college students who may eventually want to look at one of our institutions as a continuation of their education, we see that as all good. There's a cost dimension to it. We'll see how that plays out, but generally speaking, at least initially, I think positive from our perspective.
You share that particular viewpoint?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there. It presents somewhat of an opportunity for all of us, as those students hopefully will go to college at least. And I think among the benefits in the discussion has been that we've been talking about the value of education for the public good rather than for the private good. And there are lots of opportunities to think about how we might attract those students and prepare them for future jobs and careers.
Troy?
Sure, both points are very good. The public good to higher education is evident, whether it's a wealthier community, a wealthier individual, happier, healthier. This conversation that this provokes is so valuable because it really reinforces the point that higher education is very important, not only to individuals, but to our communities, to our state, and to our nation. And that's what I am very grateful for the conversation. There are very interesting aspects that will be unveiled shortly, we hope, in the details, and we'll understand the proposal better. The question of access and success, or access or success, or access to success. Those questions are very important in a program like this because all of our institutions are very focused on student success, although sometimes we're thought of as primarily concerned about recruiting the next class or bringing in a certain profile of class. The truth is all of us are very engaged, and even that admission process is as much about having students be successful. And so as much as this dialogue evolves from not only access to individuals and new enrollments, but to success, and that those students succeed after they enroll, that's going to be very beneficial and important too.
Yeah.
Is it going to make it difficult to go after a prospective freshman student? And I say this, let me lay some groundwork here for the viewer, because the numbers are that Illinois State University is down 5% since, these are numbers since 2010. You're down in enrollment 5%, Bradley University down 4%, and Eureka College down 12%. These are undergraduate numbers. Do you fear that it might make it more difficult for you to recruit freshmen?
Yeah. Transfer students from community colleges are very important to my institution. I think we would all agree very important to our institutions. But generally speaking, we really aren't competing for students at the freshman level who are looking at a community college to begin their career versus a Eureka or an ISU or a Bradley, because, quite frankly, because of the cost differential is so
That's
significant.
already been decided.
I mean, it's kind of baked into it. The average cost of a community college is, what, around $3,200, $3,300. You're looking at something close to 9 or 10, and much larger numbers. So a student is going to decide that that's the direction they want to start. That's where they want to begin. So again, the short answer is we're really not competing at the freshman level. As they move through and look to transfer, again, we see a richer, broader pool.
So that might actually benefit a Eureka College because you've had problems with retention rates in your freshman class, and you've had problems with attracting students who might be transfers from, so might this help?
Yeah, there's a potential to. We have, with our retention rate over the past several years, which we're working on to improve now, it looks like it's about 92% for fall, spring, but as the retention rate has been an issue in the past, those students coming from community colleges are going to be better prepared and more likely to be successful because they've already had a year or two of college under their belts. So that could be an advantage for us. Our ability to remediate all students that come to us, even though we're not open admissions, is certainly challenging. But if the community colleges are able to do some of that work for us, I think we all benefit from that.
Let's talk money. At Bradley, 85% of the operating budget comes from tuition. That's a large number. It's a large percentage. I don't know what it is at ISU, but certainly a good portion of your
Absolutely.
income.
Right.
You're helped by the, well, maybe you're not helped by the state now that I make that
Less
statement.
than we used to be.
Some.
But at any rate, suffice it to say that tuition is a very important dollar when it comes to the operating budget of each of your institutions. Tuition is going up at an unsustainable rate, my opinion. It's going up much faster than inflation. How much longer can we tolerate these kinds of increases before the system doesn't work anymore?
Sure. Well, some good news is that this year, many of the national studies indicate that across the country, tuition rate increases are coming to a slowdown. And we are hearing about some institutions actually freezing. Of course, in Illinois, many institutions, and Illinois State is one, has a tuition guarantee program so that a student starts at a rate and is guaranteed that rate through their career. So for an individual student, a family, they know what the cost will be and it won't go up. But it's the increases for the future classes that you're concerned about, and rightly so. And in public universities, we've been investing more in need-based scholarships, need-based aid, also in merit-based scholarships to be sure that the strong mix of students, the quality of students for our programs matches the rigor of the curriculum. And so to offset some of these tuition increases, we've been investing in those kinds of ways.
What? Go ahead.
We decided several years ago, I think they called it the Eureka idea, to reduce the tuition to the level at which it was more affordable. So I think we're one of the lowest, if not the lowest, tuition rate in the area because of that. And so it's affordability is a big factor in student selection of institutions right now, and we identified that as a priority.
Tuition at Eureka looks like $19,210. That does not include room and board.
Does not include room and board.
At Bradley, $29,664.
Undiscounted.
Undiscounted.
Right.
These are all undiscounted numbers, yes. And at ISU, $10,260 for in-state students, $23,630 if they're out-of-state students. So let's continue with, you mentioned, Troy, the opportunities for students, because that's undiscounted. I don't know too many students who are paying full boat.
Right. Well, and even at public universities, and I think, David, we were talking about the fact that many public universities are giving more scholarships or need-based aid. And back to the Obama proposal, for example, it's important that the people viewing this show and then listening to these conversations understand that for needy students and families, the Pell Grant program pays for tuition and fees for many students totally at community colleges already. And so it's important that message be there, that this proposal is a significant additional infusion of financial support to students, but that there already is a substantial amount of support that we want people to know about and know is there. Universities also receive Pell Grant funds. Those students do. The MAP grant in Illinois is a strong program. It has had level funding actually decrease slightly, but level funding for many years now, and that's a concern as tuition rates go up. But the institutions, as Daniel said, affordability is absolutely critical, and it's a regular conversation on campuses.
What percentage of students at Eureka are receiving some form of financial aid?
Oh, all of them are receiving some type of financial aid, including institutional aid. 82% of them are receiving federal financial aid, and about 42% of them are receiving state aid.
And then, and then you have Eureka College has scholarships.
And then Eureka College has scholarships and institutional aid.
Is that similar at Bradley?
Similar, and then of course the student loan programs for both students and parents
Yeah.
provide certainly financing vehicles.
Right.
So, do you still consider Bradley affordable
Yeah.
for students?
Well, we do. Part of our, certainly part of our mission, to some degree part of our brand has been accessibility. I mean, Daniel, right, it's very important. Students are looking at the private sector. They're looking at the sticker price. We obviously spend a lot of time, all of our institutions spend a lot of time hoping families also look at that net price, that, sort of post-discount, because it's a very different number. It's a very different look. But back to your question, we take cues from the market. We look at our peer institutions, and that's where we try to gauge our price point. At about $30,000, we tend to be on the low end on the tuition price. And when you blend into that, then the discounting, we're very, very competitive, very, very accessible.
That's finances from a student point of view. Let's talk about budget, operating budget specifically. With 85% of the income coming from tuition and enrollment going down, Bradley faces, and help me with numbers, $7 million deficit. Mm-hmm. Is that the number? Mm-hmm. And so where do you turn to do things like that? And how do you can't, enrollment isn't going to jump that much next year, especially with the declining pool of Illinois seniors in high school. Yeah. So where do you look?
Well, a couple different responses to that. We're not surprised at the downturn in the Illinois marketplace. We have known now for about 17 years how many kids were on that train, and so we knew that this decline was coming. We know that we're going to continue to see decline in the number of 17, 18-year-olds moving forward, certainly for the next decade or beyond. We've been doing at Bradley a lot of planning, looking at our overhead, our cost structure, ways that we could become more efficient. Certainly just taking a very broad look, and our president has put together several task forces that are looking at again our overhead, but at the same time we're also looking at new ways to generate revenue, alternatives, if you will. We're going to be announcing some graduate level programs that'll be entirely online, ancillary healthcare programs that will really broaden the reach of the Bradley brand from certainly outside of our region to a national, almost an international market. So tremendous opportunities there.
At Eureka, what options do you have in terms of the budget?
Well, the first thing that comes to us, of course, is the opportunity to be more efficient, as most people recognize, and so the efficiency factors are always looked at first. I think there are a number of other options that we're exploring relative to programmatic sorts of things. Better serving our students, improving our retention rates, of course, is significant because that affects enrollment. And then the idea that we want to increase graduation rates and attract students to the experience that they're going to get at Eureka College in a broad sense, including the residential experience as well.
You mentioned the experience. I want to talk about that with all three of you, but first the financial end for you at Illinois State.
Sure. At the turn of the decade, in 2003, about 35% of our operational budget came from the state. Now it's about 18%. So we have watched the decline in the amount of operational budget supported by the state. And I have to give great credit to former President Bowman, current President Dietz, and other leaders on campus who've been very planful about things. Been very smart with expenditures and with the revenue. Our enrollment did rebound this fall with the largest freshman class in 25 years. And though we have a couple of years of small classes that will be with us for a number of years, that puts downward pressure on the bottom line of the budget. We are looking forward to leveling out and being able to maintain at that rate. We're also looking at cost savings kinds of ideas. We're in a exercise right now to prioritize, to be strategic, and be ready when the state comes to us with its budget plan.
The pay raises for staff and faculty have not been significant, about 1.5% at Bradley, something similar. I didn't find any numbers at ISU, but something similar. Last 2 years at Eureka, 0% pay raise and an increase in healthcare premiums, so actually a decrease in pay. How difficult is it to maintain faculty and staff, keep them there? Because you talked about selling the experience. Well, faculty is part of that experience.
It is. There's a huge challenge there to continue to recruit faculty. And another problem that develops, and since I work with faculty a lot, there are situations that develop where salary compression appears because we have to offer higher salaries to incoming faculty, which mean the longer term faculty don't experience the same rate increases. So in effect, it continues to challenge all of us, I think, in terms of recruiting faculty in an environment which is not only very competitive, but also there's not very much money.
Similar issue at Bradley?
Yeah.
In ISU?
Sure, and the state condition financially, I would add, that is one that doesn't often come to the surface in these conversations, but when we're trying to attract national faculty, recent doctoral graduates from the top programs in the world, the state's financial condition is part of the decision matrix for these people. And so a strong Illinois is very important, and the opposite can also send other message. It might be a little more risky to make a move to Illinois versus go to another state.
Let's talk about that experience, and I'm not even sure, maybe you can help define what an experience is. Dave,
Yeah.
Because you're recruiting students in a different way than you did, say, 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Most certainly, H, we are. But yet I want to step back, and Daniel started the conversation with the idea of the experience. And I want to take that a little bit further and suggest that we're dealing with, generally speaking, a pretty sophisticated market, to the extent that students are not just seeking out the lowest cost provider, because if they were, in many ways, we would be very, very different institutions. What they're really looking for is value in the educational experience. And what makes our industry particularly challenging is that there's a big difference between making a decision to buy this vehicle or that vehicle or this refrigerator or that one, because you have a very immediate relationship with that product. In a very real sense, what our product is a promise. And we try to put some tangibles on that. We talk about the return on investment based on job placement rates, to some degree life satisfaction, starting salaries and things like this. But more than anything, it is the experience that the student's going to have at a particular institution. And it is absolutely a fact that the experience at Eureka College is going to be different than the experience at Bradley, which is going to be different than the experience at ISU. We all offer unique experiences. So while finances are very important to the student and to the institution, what really carries the day is how well are we delivering on our value proposition to that individual student, being true to the if you will, the value promise that we're delivering to market.
So what's Eureka College sell to a prospective student?
Well, of course, we sell the small college experience like many others, including Bradley University talks about the small college experience, even though they're a bit larger. We also talk to students about the residential life experience, the learning communities that are part of that experience, as well as the programming that's available to freshmen, including freshman programming, and we have first generation programming and things like that where they can participate in a broad scale of activities. We have sororities and fraternities and things like that. So all that kind of becomes part of the experience that we offer to students.
And a bit of history too.
And the history, of course, our famous alum and the past abolitionists past of the college.
1855, founding of Eureka College, so you are much older than either one of the other universities. What does Illinois State sell?
Sure, 2 years older.
Not to put too fine of a point on it.
Well, Bradley's the young one,
We're a kid.
1897, 1857, and 1855, so we got that straight.
Illinois State is so fortunate that it has extremely high graduation rates. And when this market that has become more savvy, parents and students, and as price has gone up, it has caused families and those people spending on higher education to be very much more careful. They investigate more. They want increasingly to know that there is something after, whether that be a graduate school placement, a job sometimes. Sometimes the after is just the first year though, so that experience, the excitement, the fun. College is a very fun, it's a phenomenal time of growth in an individual student's life, and we all help these students grow in tremendous ways. The fact that we have these very high graduation rates and we are reasonably priced, we have a very high loan repayment rate. So though a third of our students don't have any loans when they graduate, our default rate is among the lowest in the country. And this surprises many people to learn this. So when we put those together in a package, Illinois State becomes a very attractive option. The location too is good. We have a wonderful community that's invested in itself, and that's a lot of fun for students, and parents see a safe environment that's attractive to them.
Kids can ride from Chicago on the train to Normal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know where the train is in Peoria. I haven't figured out where the train left us behind.
It doesn't come to Eureka.
It was.
No, it used to. It used
I
to be
know.
back when it was called Walnut Grove. I think there was a train. But
Yeah.
So, what's unique about Bradley? What's the first thing you would tell a student?
Well, we're fortunate that we're able to kind of position ourselves between the two extremes. We, being somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 to 6,000 students, we're able to offer some different kinds of maybe dimensions to the experience that the smaller schools aren't in terms of breadth of majors and academic offerings, to some degree facilities, certainly internship opportunities, tremendous job placement, strong alumni involvement. So really the best of the smaller private colleges, we're able to offer that. And at the same time, many of the benefits of the larger publics, in terms of a very robust campus experience. The Division I athletics is not a small part of that. So we like to think that we can really appeal to that student who's looking for a little bit bigger campus with a lot of a lot of the opportunities of large, but at the same time offer that small personal attention. That's the hallmark of the smaller school.
And you mentioned athletics. How important is athletics at all three schools? And let me preface that by saying that, by the way, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Second place in football
Championship
series. I can never get
Right.
that right.
Right.
But you're no scholarships at Eureka. You, of course, have a full Division I program. Bradley doesn't have the football, but
Basketball.
and we know that athletics, generally speaking, drain the budget. But how important is it to have an athletic program?
We think it's very important. There are students on campus because they want to participate in a college experience that includes athletics. And there are, of course, we do have a football program, and there are students on campus that have ambitions and aspirations and enjoy the game and are participating. About half of our students, a little more than half of our students, are involved in some athletic activity.
And at Bradley, Dave? Is that
Very,
important?
very important, very important. It's part of the student experience, but it certainly gives us a connection to, over 100 years of history that doesn't define who Bradley is, but certainly athletics have been a part of the Bradley University experience, for 100 plus years. So very, very, very important.
It's going to be easy to recruit some athletes and maybe get some tuition coming in for those that don't pay, don't get a scholarship.
Right, and then the successes or even just the exposure also generates interest in investment by donors, corporations in academic programs too, though. At the end of the day, our students are athletes. And if you talk to our coaches, you'll hear this replicated, that our students are athletes, they have good grades, good graduation rates, and it's very important.
And with that, we've run out of time. Let me say thank you to Troy Johnson, who is the Illinois State University Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management, and to Dave Pardick, who is Bradley University's Director of Financial Assistance. Across the table from them, Daniel Blankenship, who is the Eureka College Provost and Dean. Thank you all three for the interesting conversation and the update on recruiting students and finances in the university environment. Next week, we'll be back with another edition of At Issue with how money affects political campaigns. Join us then for that conversation.